I woke up in the middle of the night, and although I had been in a coma for 3 days, I could still remember almost everything that got me here. My name is Lindsay. I am an ex-air hostess, and here is my story. Before we continue with the story, do not forget to click on the notification button in order to get notified at every new video posted. Thank you. Since my adolescence, I had always been a very crazy, ambitious lady. I always dreamt of traveling around the world, meeting 1,000 people and making them friends. Why not having kids from different backgrounds than creating a big family? My mother died when I was just 2 years old, so my grandma was the one who took care of me. She was a very nice and caring person with a very good heart. Although from time to time, she reminded me my mother's stubbornness and carelessness, which she was seeing in me. She told me that my mother was a very beautiful young girl, but she was way too ambitious. She dreamt of having a big mansion, riding in an expensive car, and living a luxurious life, whereas she was not serious with her education. That was how a rich man promised to marry her, but instead impregnated her at the age 16, and she gave birth to me. When I was already a year old, my mother started asking him about his promise, and he told her the condition was that she would give him a male child first. She fell pregnant again despite all the warnings her mother gave her, and at the time of birth, she died alongside the child. This story left my grandmother shattered because my mother was her only child and she had already lost her husband. Although I love my grandmother with all my heart, I still had it in mind to live my dreams, so I always used to reassure her that I was not going to make the same mistake like my mother did. When I was 16 years old, I was already in my final year in high school, and I was so excited about what the world reserved for me. I knew from this moment on I was going to be free. My grandmother was just a farmer and had no money to send me to university. So she said I should look for a vocational training school to attend while searching for jobs. I had a friend whose auntie was an air hostess, and each time she told us about her auntie's trips, the advantages of her job, I always pictured myself in the same space, and that became my dream job. I told my grandmother about my dream work as an air hostess, and her answer was, "God forbid!" To her, the job was similar to promiscuity because I will not have time to settle and build my own life like a real African woman. But I told her that was my dream job and nothing was going to change it. She laughed and asked me who was going to pay my training because not a single franc was going to come from her pocket. That was the first heated discussion that I had with my grandmother, and the whole night I thought about it. She was somehow right about these training fees. 650,000 francs was a very huge amount of money for me to pay in just a year. But again, I trusted my intuition, and I was so convinced that I was going to get into that school no matter what. Our results were out, and I made it with excellent grades. One afternoon, I went out to hug the vegetables my grandmother had harvested as usual, and I met this man. He was driving a very beautiful car, and he stopped and spoke to me very politely. He was asking for direction to get to the mayor's house because he had never been to our town. I tried directing to him, but it was a mixture of footpaths and shortcuts, so it was not very easy to direct. He pleaded that I followed him and show him the way because he had an important meeting with the mayor, and he almost was running late. Since I had finished hawking, I then accepted to follow him. On the way, we exchanged a lot about ourselves, and he was impressed about my courageous, smart, and outspoken nature. On our way, I pointed my grandmother's house, and he said he would check on me returning from his meeting. When returning, he dropped by. My grandmother was still in the farm, so we spoke for a while, and I told him about my dream of becoming a hostess, which he found interesting and said he would help me if possible. After he left, I could not take him off my mind. My heart kept beating. I was even lost in my thoughts when my grandmother came back home. I said nothing to her about it, and as time went on, I found a job as a cleaner and an assistant in a restaurant. While on weekends, I sold foodstuffs my grandmother brought from her farm. 2 months later, my mysterious friend returned, and this time around, he told me his name and profession. He was Mark Anthony, age 25, and a civil engineer. He had come to execute 2 months contract in our town. This was when everything kicked off between us. We spent time together talking for hours, and although I was usually tired from work, talking with him wiped away every sign of fatigue. My grandmother really liked him, but always told me to be careful because I was too young and she would not like me to make a silly mistake. Then 2 months came and passed so fast, and Mark Anthony had to leave. But before leaving, he gave me a mobile phone so that we could stay in contact. Time went on very fast, and it was soon September, which meant that it was a new academic year. I collected my salary from work, and it was 200,000 francs from 3 months. I told Mark Anthony, and he sent me the lacking part of the money, and I paid my training. During the Christmas vacation, I went to Mark's place and spent time with him. On returning from holidays, I discovered that I had missed my period. After conducting a pregnancy test, I found out I was 4 months pregnant. It was the most scary thing I had ever heard because Mark was not interested in having kids for now, and it was also forbidden in our school. Thank God I was naturally round and tall, so it was hard to notice. When I was already 8 months pregnant, the school gave us 1 month holidays to prepare for our 2 months practical internship, which would be our final exams. I gave birth a few days to the end of my holidays, and my grandmother was so shocked but somehow happy because my job, according to her, was going to separate us, so she would have a piece of me to stay with her. It was a boy, and I told her to choose a name for him. I left her with 200,000 francs and promised to be back as soon as possible so that we could talk things out. I was sent to work in a Canadian airline for my internship. Because of my good results, I was retained immediately at the end of the internship, and I signed a 5-year contract. 5 years came and passed. I was living my dream life and touring the world. Mark and I finally got married, and I decided to go back home and settle everything in a meeting, but on getting there, I was told that my grandmother had died. Nobody knew where my son was. How would I start explaining to Mark about our child? Would he even believe me? I then decided to hire a private investigator to find my son, but still I had no results. It was like a nightmare to me. Mark and I went back home and renewed my contract with the air company, hoping to find our son and reunite our family. After 6 years of marriage without a child, Mark started getting worried. Medically, there was nothing wrong with us, and that was what really tortured me. Soon, we were in 15 years of marriage without any sign of pregnancy, and we had gotten used to it, though our marriage had lost every taste. One day, on coming home from holidays, I found a young guy Mark had brought home to be keeping the house since both of us were always gone. Before I could know, I was already spending nights with this guy whom I knew nothing about. I felt bad, but the need to feel like a woman and even the possibility of having a child were the things I had in mind. After some months, I found out I was pregnant, and I asked Mark to dismiss this guy from his functions since I would now be home to take care of him and our unborn baby. It was going to be perfect time to fan the flames of our love again. Mark accepted without hesitation, and he paid the guy a huge sum of money, and he left although he wasn't happy. A week after his departure, I was cleaning his room, and I found something shocking. There was a picture of him and my grandmother, with her name and the name of our hometown. Immediately I saw it, everything came to me as a flash, and I passed out. I woke up 2 days later in the hospital. I had lost the baby to my greatest relief, but I still had to tell Mark the whole truth at the expense of losing what was left of our marriage or living with this life for the rest of our lives. I chose to tell him the truth and find my son. I finally told my husband the truth, and today our marriage is broken. Mark and I are in the process of divorce, and I still have to confront my son, who was once my lover.